Welcome to Behind the Pint with Spicy, where we dive headfirst into the frothy world of real-life experiences. I'm your host, Spicy, and together we're going to explore the highs, lows, and everything in between, all while sipping on our favorite brews. Whether you're nursing a stout or sipping a crisp lager, this podcast is your cozy corner pub. And with us today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell, welcome to the show, man. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm okay, just doing that thing I do, talking to my bros. So, you and I have had a little bit of a chance to get to know each other. It's been a rocky road trying to get you on the show. I'm sorry, I've been having some technical difficulties. We set up like the new studio here. So, in fact, listeners, you might even notice, man, I sound a little bit better. Not great, but a little better. New setup means everything, right?
It does, and I like it. It sounds much more cleaner.
Thanks, bro. So let's get started, man. Where you from?
I'm from Indiana. I moved there, or I was born there, sorry. Shortly after I was born, I moved over to Illinois, small town of Fulton. And then from there, I grew up a little bit there, and then I moved over to Iowa for a little bit. I still went to school in Fulton, though. And then from there, I kind of went back and forth between Iowa and Illinois with my family, because it's like a 5-minute drive in between each other, Fulton and the border of Iowa.
Okay, so you're not like having to commute like an hour each way or nothing?
No, it's maybe like, depending on where you live in Iowa, maybe 5 to max 30 minutes to the Illinois border of where my school was. Like we fluctuated between where we lived. And then most of my high school life I spent in another small town in Iowa, and I went to that school out there. But that's a little bit later that we can deep dive into.
Sure, man. When I think of Iowa and like Illinois, I just think of corn, dude.
That is true, yes.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
wow.
You don't see anything but corn unless you're in a big city. If you're in like a small town, you either got the cows mooing or you got the corn. And it's fun, but there's almost nothing to do. Like, if you drive 2 hours north to Wisconsin, you got the Wisconsin Dells.
Okay.
But other than that,
what are the Wisconsin?
I've never been there, but I hear it's like a water park.
Really?
I've never been there myself, so I don't know what it's really like out there. But I mean, in Iowa and the Illinois where I was at, man, there was nothing to do except go to Walmart at like midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning and just be kids. Walk around, look at the store, maybe buy something small, and then walk out or do some crazy stuff and shoot the bouncy balls into the hoops and, fun shit like that.
Sounded kind of wholesome.
It is. I didn't start doing all that until like middle or high school-ish when I had my own vehicle and all that, but
let's take it back just a little way and let's actually talk about mom and pop, dude. So you grew up Iowa, Illinois. What'd your mom and dad do for a living?
So my dad, I don't know much about him. All I do know is he served in the Army, and I knew him up until like 5 years old. That's kind of like the vague memories I have of him. After that, there was an ugly divorce, and I'm talking not your parents arguing. Like it was to the point where I only saw my father very few, and then he just disappeared. It was a very ugly divorce. Mom, she was an EMS. She had also a little side job of embroidery at the time when I was a kid. But mainly it was just EMS. She was a volunteer, I believe, there. I really don't remember. But I believe she was a volunteer at the fire department there. And I grew up in the firehouse a little bit.
Oh, right on.
Got to meet a lot of cool, interesting people. One of the firefighters there was actually part of the sheriff's office as well. And he was a nice old man. Nice as could be. Like, anytime me and my siblings would come over there, down to the firehouse for their annual pancakes that they did every Christmas for Santa and all that, he'd always be there. And it was just fun being in the firehouse. It's kind of that feeling of true family.
So how old were you when you were doing that?
Oof. I want to say 5, maybe 6, maybe.
So you were just a little guy running around the firehouse, like breaking balls and whatnot?
Oh, yeah. It was fun going down there.
You ever slide down the pole? I gotta ask.
They didn't have one.
They didn't have a fire pole?
So it wasn't... No. So how theirs was set up was they had their bays, and then on the other side, like outside, was a staircase that went up, and it was mainly all first floor, but there was no second floor to the place. It kind of was, but it was just kind of like where they stored extra equipment. They did have a little kitchen upstairs as well as downstairs,
Sure.
but mainly everything was on one floor.
Did they at least have a Dalmatian?
No, they didn't. It was all volunteer.
The whole firehouse experience.
I know. So it was all volunteer. So no one. They did stay at the firehouse occasionally, like late at night. I remember my mom never coming home when I was going to bed, and one of the other firefighters that worked there would babysit us, and she was really cool.
Wow. Okay.
But no, there was no dog at the firehouse. They did have like other people's dogs that would come in there occasionally, but we didn't have the traditional Dalmatian run around being all crazy. Nothing like that.
So you moved around a little bit. No fire pole. I can't believe no fire pole. What a chip, man.
I know.
So, mom and dad got divorced. You said it was kind of messy. It kind of sucks for a kid when like your only memories of your pops is like yelling at your mom, you know?
Oh, I don't even remember all that. So the only memories I have of him was me and him playing video games together. And that's kind of where my whole gaming personality started, was my dad and me would play Halo or Call of Duty. Those were our go-to games when he was around. But I never have... Now that I'm looking back at it, I don't think I have a memory of my mom and my dad together. For some reason, me trying to think back, I don't recall that. It was always either one of them at the house or the other one. My dad, since he was in the military, and then once he got out, he went private contractor, so he was never home. And all that. So I don't have that many memories of him, but it was mostly gaming or him making macaroni and cheese and hot dogs in one bowl with ketchup.
Oh, with ketchup?
In one bowl. Yep. That was his meal, was all of that combined into one bowl.
I guess people like what they like.
Yeah.
I don't think I like that, but that's all right. So, mom and dad got divorced. How was school for you, dude? Like growing up, like grade school, like let's start like, you know, earliest memories for me are usually like 4th, 5th grade, you know?
Yeah, so I got memories of 2nd grade.
Oh.
And I was a troublemaker. I did not like school whatsoever. All growing up, even middle school and all that, I just did not like school. But in 2nd grade, I always remember this teacher. She would always say, if you say, I didn't do it when she said your name, you would be moved on the clipboard. And you would start at green, and you move up to yellow and red. And if you got red, you know, your parents would be notified. And anytime she called my name, just immediate reaction would be, I didn't do it. I don't know why that always came out of my mouth. And I never did anything. It's just she always thought I did. So she'd move my name up. And so I'd be getting in trouble all the time at school for nothing that I did. And I grew up in the household where if you did something bad at school, you'd be taken to the woodshed. And what the woodshed is called is a wooden paddle to the behind.
From school?
No, at home.
When you get home, okay.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I grew up with. I know it's frowned upon nowadays.
No, bro.
But I went
to a private school, and the teachers, well, the principal was allowed to, like, if we went to his office and we screwed around, he would take a paddle to us and give us 2 swats. Like, that was totally acceptable back then.
Yeah, it's not acceptable now.
No, he would have gone to jail for that crap.
And I got bullied pretty heavily because I was short. I'm still short nowadays, but I was really short back then.
What's short? Like 5'3", 5'5"? I'm 5'7".
So I'm 5'3" right now.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I was short. I don't even remember how tall, but there was kids like 5 something. And you know, you're only in 2nd grade, so you're we had tall kids, and I'd always be picked on. All the way up till middle school in Fulton is when I finally left Fulton, was in middle school. And it was pretty bad. I remember one time I got corn dogged. If you don't know what that is, it's where you get kneed in the behind.
Oh.
And I got pushed into a locker by that.
Somebody corn dogged you into a locker?
Yep.
And they locked you in there.
No, they didn't lock me in. I just got thrown into it and the door got shut. But yeah, it was. I didn't care for the whole middle school and high school, or middle school and elementary there. I did have some good teachers there. They really helped me out. I for some reason just couldn't read really well, or that's what the school test said. Even though I could read perfectly fine, the school tests back then said, "Oh, this kid needs to be put in some sort of extra learning for reading." And I finally got out of that like in 4th grade. I was in it for only a year. And then the new test came out to where they would determine if you needed any special education. But I never really needed it.
I mean, everybody learns at their own pace, right? Like you can't rush a kid. And I know for me, I'm a smart dude, right? But I am shit at taking tests, bro. Like if you put a test in front of me, I get clammy hands and I start getting nervous. Like I'll give you the information all day. Don't make me write it on a piece of paper and say you have an hour, you know?
Yep, I'm the same way. Like that, I think that's another thing. As a kid, you don't have an attention span to sit there and take a test. That's a very important test that determines a lot for that school year.
Yeah.
That's more like for middle school kind of. Elementary, you're there to have fun almost. Right. You still need to learn, but it's more for fun.
You have recess, you're learning how to be social for once in your life, you're getting out there, making friends or enemies as it may be, but learning how to navigate the ways of life, dude. I wouldn't be half the person I was if I didn't get kicked in the nuts once or twice in grade school,
Oh, yeah.
And what does it teach you? Don't fuck with that guy because he'll kick you in the nuts. So you move on to the next dude.
Or it teaches you be bigger and be more tactical about what you do with things and maybe go to the gym more and get bigger. And so then he fears you a little bit.
Right. I mean, there's 100 ways to skin a cat and they're all right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just how you decide to deal with it and what your personality is. So, okay. How did the divorce or any of that, like, was it hard growing up without a dad being in school? Like, did you ever wish that, hey, I'd like dad to come to this? Or was it just not even like that? Like, I know some people just, like, adapt.
So, in the early stages of him not being home, I have beginning memories of Fulton. Mm-hmm. And then dad was never around. He was only around very few. But then he just kind of vanished. And then as I grew up, I finally started questioning, like, hey, where's dad at? And I always did, yeah. Baseball practices were tough. That was the biggest one, is I was always, everyone's dad's coaches were there. Their dads was a coach or their dads were some sort of involved. And I mean, I got my grandpa out there and I got my grandmother and I got my mom out there. But at the end of the day, it's not the same. You having no dad around and you got all these other kids playing baseball with their dad or their dad's the coach. So a lot of the coaches took me under their wing a little bit, I felt, growing up, and understood, like they had to have known my situation and kind of mentored me a little bit more. My father figure was my grandfather. So you actually had like a really good relationship with your grandfather. I do, and I still do. He's still kicking to this day.
Right on, man.
With a lot of heart issues that he's had. It's surprising. And I think he's 83 now, or he's in his 80s. I know that, I believe. And he's still kicking, and it's surprising me every day. So growing up, he was the one.
What are some of those fond memories with you and your grandpa?
So as a little kid, me and him were playing catch in the yard. And I'm a little kid trying to run it back. So we had a fenced-in backyard, to give context. and I try and run to go catch the ball, and I hit my head on the pole of the fence, and I cracked my head open a little bit. And that was the best. Like, I don't remember it. I just got told that all the time. Just basically playing catch with my grandfather.
And cracking your head open on a fence.
Yep. But we would always do that. He would always be there at every game.
Nice.
But that was my grandfather playing catch with him, or learning model cars as he builds model cars, or going to the drag strip with him.
Oh, you guys used to go to the dragsters?
Yes. Me and my grandfather, who he kind of works for, he does a lot of his model cars for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Me and him have the same birthday. And so every year I would come out there and see him race. His name is Arnie. His code name that they all call each other out there for the racing is Arnie the Farmer Beswick.
Arnie the Farmer Beswick.
Yep. He drives like a Tameless Tiger.
A what?
Yep. He drives a Tameless Tiger is what his car's called.
Oh,
it's what his name is called. It's a Pontiac something. It's been a little bit since I've been out there.
Sure. But these things blow, right? Like, aren't they like jet fueled and whatnot?
No, they're normal engines. They did have at the drag strips jet engine police cars. And that was fun. They would block off the road so then they could use the jet engines, and it was fun to watch.
Imagine getting chased by a cop and he kicks in the jet engine. You're just done, dude.
I'd be done. I would hop out of the car. I'd lay it down. I'd hand it over, officer. Come on.
We're finished here, sir.
Yeah, that would be fun. I was kind of crazy as a kid as well.
Like crazy how?
I kind of ran away.
Ran away, or you ran away?
So the cops saw me. Like, my mom called it in, and I was walking down the road, and the cop was following me, like, trying to talk to me. I had a good relationship with the cops there.
Was this middle of the night? Like, you snuck out of your window when everybody was asleep?
It was midday after school, and I was upset because my sister deleted the shows off the recording that I was wanting to watch. So then she could record her shows that she wanted to watch. And so I just walked out the house. And left. Couple minutes later, the cops, they saw me and they were like, come on, come back to the house. They put me in the back of that was the only time I've been in the back of a cruiser, was that one time. Another time was I didn't want to go to school, so I climbed a tree. And
you just hid out in a tree like a squirrel all day?
Yeah, I know. It was like midday or mid-morning, and the mom's trying to yell at me, getting me down to go to school. And I'm like, I don't want to go to school. I don't need to. And so she calls the cops, the resource officer, down and tries and talks to me. And this is all like middle school, elementary time frame. Like, I was not the best.
What was it? Was it acting out? Because I know a lot of kids, right? Like, they act out, they're angry because the dad's not around, or there was like some stuff going on at home. What would lead, little Russell to go down this path?
Yeah, it was. I 100% believe it was. Because every year I would go out to see my dad's side of the family in Indiana. And I would come home and I'd have new information about my dad. Like, stories that they would tell me of my dad. And I'd just miss him, and I would just act out for so long. And it drew my mother down. I know it. We still talk about it here and there. Like, hey, remember that time I climbed the tree because I didn't want to go to school? Just stupid stuff like that as a kid.
At least
I grew up with two sisters.
You had two sisters?
Yeah, I had two sisters, one full blood and one half sister, where she was my mom's child, but not my dad's. She was another child of another dad. So I had a half sister and a full sister.
And were they living at home when you were still a kid and growing up?
Yep. So I'm the middle child as well. The child that everyone says on the internet and everything that is underlooked and everything. But my older sister, she's 7 years older than me. And my younger sister, who's my full blood, was 3 years younger than me.
Growing up as middle child, then, man, like, did you feel that pressure? Or was it a little bit different for you? Or did you notice, like, the old one gets attention, the young one gets attention, you just kind of left to fend for yourself? How did that work out for you?
It did. I was always the one that was always put kind of in the middle of things where my older sister, she'd be off with her car with her friends, and I'd be left at home, or my two sisters, they would go out with each other and leave me behind. I was very antisocial as a kid growing up. And they would always go do girl stuffs, and I'd have no one to do guy stuff with. It was mainly my mom and my two sisters and me. So there really were no guy things to do. I didn't do Boy Scouts. I didn't do anything like that. We were always tight on money. So I'd always have to get things at Goodwill, which nothing wrong with that. But I was always second looked. My other sisters came first and I came second. And it's still to this day like that, kind of. My sister, she got a car. She didn't have to pay for it. Where my younger sister, she just got a brand new car. But me, on the other hand, I had to go purchase my own car. So it made me value things as well, to an extent.
Funny how you can come from something like that and instead of poor me and like feeling pity for yourself, actually learn the lessons of life. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I get it, man. The little things mean a lot. You don't have to have the most expensive stuff. You don't have the shiniest car. Just be content, man.
Yeah, it was. I moved out to DeWitt, Iowa, is what it's called. That's where I moved in 8th grade. I moved out there, and it was rocky because I was moving to 8th grade out there. Or no, I was moving out there in 8th grade was when I moved out there, and it was a bumpy start. Moving schools for the first time, learning new people. DeWitt's kind of like a rich country town where if you don't got money, you're looked upon. So me coming from not that kind of rich family, if you didn't have the nice stuff, you were looked upon as poor and a peasant out there. So I met with a couple other people out there that weren't in the best financial situations, and I bonded more out there, and that's where my relationship life grew. It was DeWitt. You think of corn, think of DeWitt. Okay. That's the place. That's the place.
So you're in what, 8th grade, going into middle schoolish?
Yep.
You moved to a new area. You go into a new school. Did the bullying stop? Were you able to like adjust a little bit better, make some friends, get out there?
A little bit less bullying. There was a little bit more in high school, just because that's where everyone's starting to gain their cliques with people. And if you weren't in that clique, you were shunned almost. The bullying, it stayed with me until I got out of high school. That's when I kind of became a man and finally stood up a little bit. That's kind of where I finally learned like who to hang around with. It was a rough patch going into there. I had to find new hobbies, new things. I quit baseball. I did baseball all the way up until I moved because I was like, why would I want to play for a new team or start all over and not have the position that I so carefully loved? I was a catcher in baseball. Why would I want to move somewhere and not have that position where I could play? And I knew that I had that as a guarantee because I was the best there, but now I might not be here. So I quit that and actually joined up in bowling.
Oh, okay.
So,
you a good bowler?
I have 300 underneath my belt.
Do you really?
Which is I have one, which if you ask the coaches out there, they are surprised that I got that because in the bowling world, it's called a Brooklyn strike, where it goes, instead of going on the right side and hitting the pocket, mine stays on the left side and just goes straight down and it clears it all. I had too many of those and it's nerve-wracking. Normally I'm only getting like 200. I'm not getting anything above a 200, maybe a little bit more. But I never have ever gotten close to that again. The highest I've ever had, besides my 300, was a 260.
Wow. My highest game is 234. I rock a 155 average right now. I bowl in our little leagues here, and I live in a small town, so there's not much to do here, you know?
Yeah, that's how DeWitt is. It's either you bowl or you work, or you do some sort of cross country or some other sport to pass the time in that. Yeah. Because if you don't, you ain't doing anything, and you just feel bored, unless you got that nice click and you go hang out and do things.
But even then, right? It's like, what
Yeah.
all could you do in a small town every day? You know, you run out of stuff
Yep.
to do. You're in high school. You're a freshman, sophomore. You said you still got the bullying thing, but how was it for the girlfriend scene, man?
Oh, so girlfriends started in middle school. Like, I know everyone says
I
the
have to comment.
elementary or the middle school life doesn't count, but that's actually where I have my longest relationship.
In middle school.
The longest, yep. And it was, I'll say the first letter. Her name was E. I'm not gonna say any more than that. And we still talk to this day. Me and her are really good friends. I see her every time I go back home. Me and her, we lasted for 6 months, but on and off throughout middle school and high school, I was seen as the short, little bit chubbier. Once I got into high school, I started gaining weight. Until my senior year. That's where I really put it back because I wanted what I wanted to do. But I ended up from middle school all the way up until senior year with 19 girlfriends in that span.
Ladies,
and
man, dude.
I at that time I knew what to say and how to say it. But nowadays I've been focusing on my career and not really caring too much. To where if something happens, hey, cool. But if not, I'm not stressing about it. But back then I was going around getting girlfriends, and I don't even think it was true love, really. There was only maybe 3 that I actually cared a lot about.
There was something
or anything
special.
like that. Yeah.
So
all the other ones was more like status quo. Like, you're dating this person, really?
Right. So what is it that leads you to find all these girlfriends? Are you trying to plug a hole in your heart that something's missing, or is it just that you got some cute chicks in town and you might as well date them?
I think a little bit of both, honestly, Spicy. Maybe a little bit of both. There was maybe a hole that I was trying to fill, but for the most part, it was, hey, this girl's cute. We're friends. We've been chilling for a while. Let's go out. And it was always like the school girl where, you would always hang around there. You had some sort of classes and bonded and all that. So I think that's where I really got the confidence to talk to the females and relate to them, was during that time.
Now, you have all these girlfriends going through school, dude. You can't tell me that didn't spark off some like rancid drama, you know?
Oh, drama was everywhere in school.
Drama was
It was everywhere. It would be, oh, you're dating the short guy. What's it like? What's he like? And most of them would always say, oh, he's sweet and caring. I never, actually, I take that back. There was only 2 girls that I personally broke up. Every one of the other girls broke up with me. And you want to know what the most common thing they said was?
What's that?
You're too nice.
I'm not going to argue, bro. The chicks at a young age, they don't want the nice guy. They want the dangerous dude. It's not till they get older, then they're like, okay, now I need somebody stable. I've had my fun. Now we can settle down and start a family. They don't want that right away, bro. So you kind of got a reputation of being like a little bad boy, huh? Oh no, the opposite.
Yeah, to the girls, so middle school and high school really was where I started to be the nice guy, the guy people could come to as a therapist and vent. And I've had people, my guy friends and my female friends, would call me up at like midnight being like, hey, can you come to my house and let's go drive around and so I can talk to you. Like, I'm stressing right now. I'm crying because of X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, yeah, give me 5 minutes. I'll be at your house.
But the problem with that
is just drive and go.
But the problem with that, man, is that you get friend zoned, right?
I did. I got friend zoned by a lot of people. And to me, I was okay with that. I'm the person where I'm okay with living in that friend zone life and them knowing they can come to me for anything. I'm comfortable with that.
I mean, that's a good place to be, right? Nobody really wants to be abrasive in life unless you're like some drama queen, right?
Yeah.
I can dig that. So going through school, you said you gave up baseball when you went into high school.
I joined the bowling team and the Saturday night leagues, or the Saturday morning leagues. I did high school bowling all up in my high school career. That's where I really found the passion and the enjoyment of getting outside the house and going to do something.
So while you're doing all this, you're thinking about your future. You got your future in hand. You're just about ready to get out of high school. What are your plans?
So my plans since I was a wee kid have always been either police or military. My whole family was in the military. My aunt, my uncle were Air Force. My great uncle was Navy. Dad was Army. I don't think we had anyone in the. Oh yeah, we had someone in the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. We didn't have anyone in the Marine Corps. And so I was always thinking, okay, what branches would I like to join? The Army or the Marine Corps? Well, I sit down with the Army recruiter for a couple, maybe like an hour or two, and he's telling me about all these cool things. And then I go to the Marine Corps recruiter, and I sit down there for 5 hours. I think I still hold the record for the longest interview with him. And
I was
like,
just
okay,
asking questions or wanted to know what was going on, or was he just talking to you?
It was both. It was interaction between me and him, going back and forth. And I finally decided, okay, let's go Marine Corps. And so I was in the delayed entry program for all of my senior year, and that's where I really buckled down. Like I said, I buckled down on my health, on my education. All throughout high school, I was always C's and D's. Mm-hmm. I rarely had A's and B's, but senior year was where I had A's and B's only.
You knew what you had to do to get in.
Yeah. Yep. So I sat down and worked out a lot more, and I finally was like, okay, this is what I want to do with my future. Cop was always in the background, though, where I had that as if I fail boot camp, all right, we're going to go police officer, because my other uncle, was law enforcement for Indiana. My mom was EMS. The only other first responder that we hadn't really hit in my family was dispatch and firefighter. So I was always like, okay, let's finish the DOD side of things and let's go military. And so I chose the Marine Corps, and I signed the contract, and I went through boot camp. Yep.
Where'd you
I
do
did boot camp down at San Diego, California.
Okay.
I will say this about San Diego. It's cold at night. You think with a nice place that it would be a little warmer? No, it was cold at night.
So I'm not a military dude. I don't have a lot of experience there. Tell me about boot camp. What was that experience like for you? Like, was it just mind-jarring from the start, or did you kind of fit in? How'd that work?
Oh, so boot camp, that was where a lot of things happened. I was running around nonstop. I was the shortest guy in our platoon. So I was the guy that always carried the PT bag. And I'd be running up and down the halls carrying the PT bag from one PT station back to the squad bay or whatever we were doing. What is PT? PT is physical fitness.
Okay, so you had to carry like the gym equipment?
Yeah, I had to carry the tape. I had to carry the cones, stuff like that.
Because you were
short? Rope. Yep, because I was the shortest one. They did that because in the military's eyes, the short guy can run faster.
Is it true?
No.
He said no.
100% no.
That's a good answer, dude.
So, and I was always in the back of formation. So they did it by height order too.
Oh.
So you would be in the back of formation on top of that. And then you would have to run in front of every other platoon. And we were third platoon. So I'd have to run from that all the way up to the front, past them, and run to the PT where we were doing it at. I never made it past them because I was a short guy, chubby. I think I weighed about 180 going into boot camp.
Oh, wow.
I was 5'3" going into boot camp at 180.
And do you remember what you got out as?
I got out at 140. Yeah, 140.
No kidding.
I left boot camp at 140.
You're a fucking lean, mean fighting machine, dude.
I know. And I was... Because you never weigh yourself in boot camp. Mm-hmm. You always are nonstop moving. And so when we got back from the Crucible is what it's called, where you're up for basically 3 days straight and you do a lot of hiking, a lot of exertion activities, land nav, all of that for 3 days straight with only 3 MREs, which is your food.
Right.
You only get 3. And a lot of people think of the black market when you think of MRE trading. Hey, I got this snack bar. You want to give me your main meal for this snack bar that everyone wants? And people will be trading left and right of their MREs.
So what was your favorite MRE?
My favorite MRE in boot camp was the Chili Mac.
Really?
But I have soon grown out of the Chili Mac and into the tuna chunks, which it's more of chicken. It's not even tuna. It's just chicken. That's my favorite nowadays. If I see that in the box, I'm grabbing that.
Do they still come with the little bottles of Tabasco and like the little candies and stuff?
Oh yeah. In boot camp, we had to take those out. The candy. You were not allowed to have the Twizzlers, the M&Ms, the Skittles. You were not.
No sugar, you maggot.
Yep, basically.
Really? I was just fooling.
Yeah. No, you were not. We would sit there in the squad bay up in Pendleton, and we would go through it.
Oregon?
No, Pendleton, North Carolina, or California. That's where I did the other portion of basic training. Okay. Is you do a little bit of it in San Diego, and then you get bussed out to Pendleton, and that's where you do the Reaper, which is what the mountain's called, and you do the range, you do the land nav, you do a lot the things you think of Marine Corps, like fighting and all that, combat. You do a lot of that training up there for boot camp, and then in San Diego, you do your PT, you do your swim call, you do all the low stuff. When you think of high stuff, you go to Pendleton and do that.
But even being a short dude and like in the rear with the gear kind of thing, you still trained to be a killer, right? Like they still got you doing the rifle and everything that the tall guys do. Like you ride in step with them, huh?
Yep, and it sucked. I will say that it sucked being the short guy, having to run places, because I was never physically active until my senior year. So I really was behind the curve of everyone else. So I still made it through and everything. But I was always trying to keep up with them. For every step they took, I was having to take 2 steps to match it.
Was there a camaraderie that like with some of the guys there that kind of helped you through it, or like? So
the guide was the best part of the boot camp. He bonded us all together and made sure that we were all level-headed. He really took that leadership and ran with it. We did a lot of joking around behind the scenes without the drill instructors. That was a lot behind the scenes that they didn't see. Well, they obviously saw it, but they let us get away a little bit. It wasn't, we're causing a ruckus. It was, a little small group of us making a joke.
And they got to know boys are going to be boys no matter the situation. Oh, yeah. As long as it's not harmful, right?
Oh, yeah. And the shower times and the bathrooms, they would always count you down so quickly. They'd say 500. And you would echo on 500 seconds, and they'd count down. And I swear to you, it was maybe like 10 seconds that you really had
to shower,
to shower and to take a piss or anything like that. There were so many times where I was like, do I really have enough time to take a poop right now? No, I don't. I'll hold it till the end of the night where it's lights and you can freely use the bathroom at night. I would be like, oh. I will say this. The drill instructor, I don't even think they know that I did this. So in boot camp, late in the morning, you would get woken up by lights. That's what they call it. And the people on duty would yell lights. And they would flip the switch and you'd get online and you would go down to the chow hall and get your breakfast. Well, we really didn't have time to use the head. Unless you had told the prior duty, like, hey, wake me up at X, Y, and Z time so I can use the restroom in the morning. Because, guys, we got to use the restroom in the morning.
Yeah.
So they didn't do that for anyone. They never did it for some reason. And so everyone would have to use the restroom. And so we get marched down to the chow hall. And it'd be dark. Like, you can't see anything. And I would see in the distance one of the buildings lit up. And it was another drill instructor hut that's filled with other recruits and all that. And I would sprint to their squad bay, and the recruit on deck would yell something, and I'd be like, "Shh, don't say anything. I'm using your bathroom." And I would be more senior than them. I would obviously pick and choose where I went, but I would run to their bathroom and I would use it and try and get past without any drill instructor seeing me. Because if you're running around as someone else's recruit, the drill instructors, they all know each other. And they all speak, like, obviously. And if I ever got caught, I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
I'd be in a lot of trouble. But I never got caught. I did it only a couple times, like dire situations where I couldn't wait to get into the chow hall line. I couldn't hold it any longer. I have to go. And I would tell my buddy, like, hey, cover for me if they do accountability or anything like that. And I just sprint to another squad bay and I use the restroom and run back.
I'm just saying, bro, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
You gotta go.
Can't fiddle with a man's poop schedule, dude. Okay,
Yeah,
so you're in boot camp, and do you get to choose what you do when you come out of the out of boot camp? Are you like, I want to do this, I want to do that? How do you get your position? Like, what do you call it? The MOS?
Yeah, your MOS, Military Occupation Specialty.
Okay, so how do you choose that?
So when you go talk to the recruiter, they take you through a test called the ASVAB, and that determines your list of jobs. Now, if you go to MEPS, which is Military Entrance Processing Station, I believe is what it's called, you go there, and that's where you get your medical screen and everything. And if you tell them something like, I smoked weed, or you did drugs, well, you would be disqualified from either the branch or the MOS, like military police. I slipped up because when they did a piss test, I was around a bunch of people that were smoking weed, like maybe a couple weeks prior to me going up, and I did not know anything about weed. And I told them at MEPS,
like, you're not a pot guy at all, huh?
No. And I was like, I smoked weed unknowingly, just in case it did come in my urinalysis that they did, that I would pop.
Right.
And so I automatically got disqualified, is what I got told by the recruiter, from military police. Originally, I wanted to be a driver, motor T operator. And that's what I originally wanted to be. I got told I couldn't be that because of my eyesight. So the day before I went up to MEPS, I got told that, or sent out to boot camp. I got told that. I was like, hey, you guys select a new MOS. Like, you can't be that. I was like, okay, I want to be a combat engineer. That's the people that deal with explosives, that build things, the demolition guy. Right. I was like, okay, I want to be that guy. And you know how, if anyone knows anything about the military, you never select your MOS, really. You get told what you want, what you get to be. So I go through boot camp. I get through MCT, which is Marine Corps Combat Training. And that's where you go and do a bunch of shooty guns and more land nav and more other things like that.
So is that kind of like the war games when people think about going out there in the field and doing that stuff?
Yep, we do a lot of that, a lot of hiking as well. A lot of hiking took place out there.
I got to ask you, because I've always been curious, though. It's when they do those war games, that's not live fire, is it?
No. So we use blanks, and we have what's called a BFA. I don't know what the term is called really for that, but a BFA is something that goes on the front of your rifle that, in case of a blank going off, there's nothing in it, of course, but just in case one of the shell casings flies out of it and it does projectile, it gets stopped by it. That way you don't shoot anyone.
Okay, so they do have safeties in place.
Yeah, obviously, they do. And we did one exercise out there, and it's like your culminating event where you see if you truly pass. And that's where we did our event. And we did the live fires with not live fires. We did the BFA fires with blanks against the other platoons out there, and tested to see our recon, tested to see our defenses, stuff like that.
How was it? Was it scary out there doing that? Like, did you actually feel like you were out in the combat zone, or were you kind of focused on the fact you were like passing a test?
A little bit of both. So you were never. It was mostly them. So they're called combat instructors for the MCT. It's a lot of them yelling at you to make sure that when you actually, if you go out and deploy and all that, you have the mindset of the things going off in your ears, the people yelling and all that. So mostly it was just me focusing on what the combat instructors were telling me to do. Like, if they told me, like, hey, take this gun and go 20 meters out, or not even 20 meters, like, go X, Y, and Z out, I would take the gun and go do it and sit there until I was told to do something else.
And you're on your way. Okay.
Yeah, you never really, the platoons really never decided what they did themselves. It was always the combat instructors told you what to do.
I got
Same thing with the drill instructors. They told you what to do.
Okay.
And then finally we did those events, and it was fun. If I could go back in time to do anything in my military career, it would be MCT. A lot of people would say their schoolhouse or stuff like that. For me, it'd be MCT. I really enjoyed that. I bonded with my mates out there. I really enjoyed the feeling of being out there with them. A lot of bonding happened.
I dig that. I mean, that's what they want, right? They want you to care about your fellow soldiers standing next to you.
Yeah, your MOS, you finally get selected after you do MCT. That's where you get selected for your MOS. And they give you what you really are going to be. I ended up being a heavy equipment mechanic. Imagine a kid at 18 years old, 5'3", 140 pounds, being told, you're going to be a heavy equipment mechanic. It's a little scary.
Though, right? I bet it's scary. So what did you do doing that?
So I went to Leonardwood. That's where the schoolhouse is. It's in Missouri.
It's in Missouri.
Yeah. So it's not too far off, actually, from where I grew up. So Iowa. It was about a 6-hour drive from there. And I was really excited. I was like, I can possibly see family a little bit more now. And it was really enjoyable that I was finally, for the first time, close to family again. Because for about 13 weeks, 13 plus 4, 17 weeks, I was in California. So I really didn't see family.
That you knew, and people that you loved. Yeah.
And so I finally came to Missouri, and this is around Thanksgiving time that I finally went to Missouri and did my schooling. And I was there for about 6 months, just learning my school, learning my trade, and finally being ready to go to what's called the fleet. And that's where you finally made it. You finally went through all the training. Now go apply that job in the military.
So what do you do? So you're obviously not in a combat zone. You just spend your time on base, like fixing the tractors and working on the heavy machinery?
Yep, that's what I do. I've been doing that since about April-ish of 22.
Oh, wow. You've been doing it for a while.
I want to say 22 maybe. And I was just having fun out here, just learning my job, learning my trade.
So that leads me into my next question. So now you report to a mechanic bay or a shop or whatever. Is it a little less stressful now that, like, once you get out of training, it's not people shouting at you all day, right? I don't know. I've never been in this service.
So yes and no. There's days that you have your NCOs yelling at you. And then there's days where you kind of are just doing your job and you're not being yelled at. You're being relaxed a little bit more, a lot more relaxed. You're able to go off base. You're allowed to have more freedom. In Missouri, we weren't allowed to drink energy drinks or smoke nicotine because it was an Army base. So, and they were doing their AIT, which is basically they're still in their training phase of becoming a soldier. Okay, and we were on the Army base doing my schoolhouse there, so we were told we can't do that. Even if you are of age, you cannot smoke or drink. So finally, when I got to the fleet, I was told, hey, you're a grown man now. Do as you please, but if you mess up, there will be consequences.
It's not going to be a problem until it becomes a problem.
Yep.
Okay.
So that took a lot of relief, and I could finally drive again. So 17 weeks plus 6 months, I hadn't drove. And I was finally able to drive again. And it was a little nervous at first. I was like, wow, it's been so long since I've drove my car or drove any kind of vehicle.
Doing what you do now, what's the craziest piece of machinery you've had to work on?
Oof. I don't know. There's a lot of, we don't have much gear here for my MOS. Mm-hmm. We only have 6 pieces of gear.
But you keep those 6 pieces just going like clockwork, right?
Yeah. Okay. We always maintain them, and they're always operational. Like right now, we always are on top of our stuff, making sure that they're being maintained, making sure that they're all top notch, ready to go for whenever we got to do something.
Yeah, man. Do you enjoy what you do? Like, do you actually love it?
It's a love-hate relationship. It really is.
How so?
There's days where I'm like, man, I really don't want to go to work. I don't want to do anything. I just want to kick back and relax. I don't want to go to work. And then there's some days where I'm like, all right, let's get this done. Let's get this done. We got to get it done. Come on. And I enjoy what I do. In hindsight, I do. At the end of the day, I do enjoy it. But I'm not making this a career. I'm doing my 4 years and I'm getting out.
Okay, so you're a young dude from Middle America, grows up, you've got the drama in the family, you've got a ton of girlfriends, you go into the service, head to San Diego, now you're kind of back where you belong, and now you've got your MOS and you're working on heavy machinery for your base. What does the future hold for Mr. Russell, dude?
So, the future holds possibly going back home and spending some time with my nephews. I've really missed out on a little bit of their life. I've really missed it. As being their uncle, I treat them like my kids.
Nice,
so
dude. Are they
that's
good
something
kids?
I'm looking for. They are. I miss them every day. Being out here, I'm about a 16-hour drive from home, and it sucks. But the future, I think I'm going to go into law enforcement or welding. That's once I get out. I think those are either one of the two jobs. Law enforcement's always been on the mind. So it's either law enforcement or welding that I'm going to go into.
Well, with the Marine background, I mean, you should have a leg up in at least the application process, right?
I do. I've talked to some law enforcement agencies back home, and they have told me that. They're like, hey, we got a couple vets ourselves here in the force, so, you got a little bit of competition with them, but everyone else, you'll be able to pass our standards and everything and have no problem getting in. So I'm excited to see what the future holds and where I end up in life.
Well, like you said, dude, you're only 20. You're a smart kid. You've had a lot of experiences for being somebody so young. I really do think that there's nowhere else to go but up, man.
I really think that as well. There's nowhere else I can go except up. I've been at rock bottom a couple times in my life, but I think right now the only place to go up, as you said, Spicy, is up.
We're getting close to our hour. Let's take this train to the final station. Do you have any words of advice out there for people that think, like you, let's take somebody who's in your situation, right? Dad's not been around. You've kind of had to fend for yourself in a house full of women, but you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you kind of get a vision, and then you take off with it. What advice would you give to people in your situation who are feeling kind of angry that Pops isn't around,
I would say to people that were in my situation, honestly, to keep your head up and understand, yeah, you don't got a father in your life, but you always have someone who's a father figure. Could be a family member, it could be someone else like a coach or something. Anchor on them and pick their brain of their knowledge and continue on. You really can't go anywhere in life without knowledge, and picking someone's brain is where you got to go, and leaning on people who you trust.
Wow, you almost got me choked up, dude. That was a good moment. Listen, man, thank you for being on the show. I know sometimes it's not always hard to delve into some of the darker places, but you took the ball and you ran with it, and I really appreciate you opening up for me, mate.
Yeah, no problem, man. I enjoyed being on here. It's always nice being around people who are interested in your life, and you get to bond with them a little bit more than what the normal eye gets to see.
Reach behind the screens,
or as you say, behind the pint,
or behind. Dude, I think I'm gonna have you do the promotions for the show now.
All right, I'm completely down for that.
Listen, dude, it was totally cool talking to you. I really appreciate you sitting down with me. Guys, this has been another episode of Behind the Pint with Spicy, where we reach out and we talk to real people and kind of delve into their lives. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment on all our videos. It really does help us out so that I can keep bringing you this content. And the bar is closed.